Welcome back to the show. Now it's time to take a look at the latest property statistics from around the country. I can just about get that word out, Charles.
That word out, yeah, you've got to keep
You've got to remember your numbers.
Yeah, call it property numbers from now on, rather,
Yeah.
otherwise it's a real problem. I have the same problem with it too.
So what's happening?
Yes, look, it's stable as per the last 2 to 3 months. 66.4% is the national clearance rate. But more importantly, Chris, is that it's much lower than this time last year. So last year was 72.2% in exactly the same time. So we've dropped quite significantly from the peaks that we had. Sydney still touched 73%, and Melbourne had only 65.4% in their clearance rates. And they last year was 79.7% in exactly the same period. So it's really quite remarkable. And I really do hope a lot of people recognise that this is the best place to be, and last year was just an adjustment that we went through.
Now, obviously with the long weekend, what's going to happen with clearance rates for this weekend?
Yeah, look, a lot of people will probably pull away from their auctions. I know I'm going away, so I think a lot of people will just...
off to play golf.
I'm off to play golf at Kangaroo Valley. Going to see the manager down there. Hello, Amy, Vicky, hope you got the golf course ready for me tomorrow. And I think a lot of people will do that. They'll go away and they won't worry about this weekend. So look, the percentages are what we look at, not the numbers. At the end of the day, I think the percentages will still be in the 60s around the traps.
OK. And then I guess the big question always is anything coming on the market?
Yeah, 0.15% this week above last week again. So we've had a number of weeks now where it's been in the pluses. New Zealand, Auckland, and that market's been up and down. So they're negative 1.7% in the amount of listings they've got in the marketplace at the moment. Compared to this time last week, it was up again, but they're also 0.9% of new stock coming on negative. So they're negative, we're positive at the moment.
Yeah, because we always talk about New Zealand being ahead of Australia.
Yeah.
Mainly in time rather than other things.
Well,
but,
I guess it's got to help, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is there anything you can read into what's happening in New Zealand?
Yeah, look, their marketplace, I think, is where we're heading. It's a marketplace eventually where we will get back to a little bit more competition after the winter period, not as vigorous as this time last year, and not as much stock coming on. I think it'll be a very interesting marketplace to watch throughout the year. We've got to beat RP data on their bet.
Exactly. Rent prices?
Yeah, they're still steady again. Sydney's 11.26%. That's been sitting flat for a while. Melbourne 7.39% and Perth 18.6%. It's been giving us a total or an average of 12.41% for those three, which is exactly the same as this time last week. Flat line, staying there and been sitting there for a very long time.
Now, obviously, our viewers' dilemma question, we're talking about vacancy rates, things like that. What's happening there?
They're exceptional when you look at it. Sydney's been sitting in the low twos for a while, so I'm pretty happy with that, 2.31%. Melbourne's been sitting and also in the threes, so they've been sitting at 3.26%. But when you look at Perth, the vacancy rate's there 4.61. So they've been the highest capital city of all. Average 3.39, sitting in between 3 and 4 again for a very, very long time.
Now, do you want to remind the viewers about your bet with RP data? Because we talked about BA Shrapnel coming up with a 15% for Sydney.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane?
We actually zeroed on Sydney this time. That was our main bet. They believe that the Sydney prices median price will be higher than 10% this year, or gather 10% over the year. I believe it'll be under. Now, when I started the bet with them, it was, I think, already close to 5%. And it didn't look good, but that was from their stats. We could see from the marketplace things were changing. Last month, May, negative 1.7% for Sydney. We're back on track.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining me, Charles Tarbey from Century 21. Thanks for joining us at home as well. We'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.